Now, you might have seen this yesterday. Greater Manchester Police heavily criticised after two of their officers paid a visit to a 52-year-old Helen Jones, a grandmother, after she made critical but entirely legal comments about a counsellor. He was part of a private Labour WhatsApp group, Shiver Me Timbers, that included offensive comments that were revealed earlier this month.
And on a closed Facebook group, Helen Jones wrote, "So, a counsellor enjoys losing his rag with the electorate. He really needs to go."
In another posting, she wrote this: "Let's hope he does the decent thing and resigns. I somehow think that his ego won't allow that, though."
Another comment said, "It's disgusting. Anyone in that WhatsApp conversation should go."
And this led to two plainclothes detectives rocking up on her doorstep. She told us that experience had left her extremely shaken.
I was a bit shell-shocked. I said, well, have I broken any law in what I've said? And he said, no, you haven't broken any law. So I said, well, if I carry on commenting in the same vein that I have been doing, will I be breaking the law? And he said, no. And I was a bit annoyed with him, and I told him that, you know, perhaps he should go and fight proper crime, and I'd carry on as I see fit. Later, looking back through the Ring doorbell, zooming in, I could see he was a detective sergeant. And there was two of them, and I just thought, this isn't right.
Well, we have here in the studio two people to debate that police response. Criminal barrister and former MP Jerry Hayes says investigating social media posts is a waste of police resources. But a former Metropolitan Chief Superintendent, Dal Babu, thinks police do need to investigate these kinds of incidents because they can escalate. So welcome to you both. Jerry Hayes, two plainclothes police officers, look like detectives, turn up at your door because you've heavily criticised a named counsellor. What would your response be?
Well, I couldn't say it this time in the morning. It would involve sex and travel. It is absolutely appalling. I mean, what has got into the police? We've got crimes which are not crimes. It is like the thought police. Look, if she'd threatened, if she'd said, "Oh, this man should be dead," if she'd threatened him with anything else, I can understand it. Now, I know Dal will say, well, it could escalate, but how? What a waste of police resources at a time when they're overstretched, when the criminal justice system has fallen apart.
How do you justify it? Because, as you say, there were no threats there. There was no bad language. It was perfectly... Frankly, it was the kind of thing you'd see in the local newspaper editorial. I mean, it was a very reasonable set of remarks.
Yeah, I mean, and what you get is these comments in the past would have been somebody shouting across the street, somebody writing a letter. They're now online. I know it's a closed WhatsApp group, but actually we can see that these are being shared quite widely.
Yeah, just to be clear, this was a private Facebook group commenting on the WhatsApp messages, which were widely publicised, which in themselves, you know, they were amongst Labour councillors and MPs, which were pretty offensive.
And led to heads rolling. I mean, the minister had to resign.
Minister lost his job. You're absolutely right. But in essence, in terms of social media, whether they're closed or not, they're escalated and available to the public, and that's what we've actually seen.
Yeah, but
here.
Why is that a police matter?
Well, if an allegation is made, and I don't know all the facts...
It's a complaint of harassment that was made against her, but the police themselves have said not a crime.
Yeah,
it's a complaint.
Non-crime hate investigation. If an allegation is made, the police are under an obligation to carry out an investigation. The police were there for 6 minutes, so we need to put this in perspective. This is not a whole van load of police officers turning up here. It's two officers.
Hang on, are you saying that they were legally obliged to visit her and tell her that the complaint had been made?
No, the police aren't under obligation to share information.
Why did they do it then?
Well, they made a judgment call, and I don't know the details. We know that councillors and politicians have been attacked in the past. So somebody, an official, makes a complaint who's a councillor, elected official.
It was the wrong judgment call, wasn't it?
Well, I think it's a case... I don't know all the facts, but the police turned up, and it does seem that the police spent 6 minutes.
Yeah,
I don't think it's
you've heard the quote. You've heard the quote. Look, you're not responsible for this, but you aren't defending it. You've seen the quotes. They're innocuous. They're really innocuous.
They were repeated.
Yep.
So there were plenty of them.
Yes, and that's why I'm saying I don't know exactly what was said.
Yeah.
But what would happen if you and I were on a comment and somebody made some comments and we felt threatened, and we then says, well, actually...
Who felt threatened?
Jerry
Who felt threatened? Nobody felt threatened.
They felt
Even the
harassed.
police.
Somebody
They did,
felt
Jerry, because
harassed.
they
So
made a
they were
complaint.
offended. Someone said nasty about them. Well, they've said lots of nasty things about
I
you.
was going to say, you should
and
see
really,
the website. I'll run it as one of my shows.
exactly. It's ridiculous. It really is ridiculous.
OK, Jerry, let's put what else Dal says to you. You used to be an MP.
Yeah.
What do MPs receive online, and where is the threshold?
I'm afraid
for
I'm
harassment?
so old now. We never had online in those days. There was no social media. But I understand there is a lot of abuse. But sometimes it's really nasty abuse, really deeply offensive. Sometimes it's harassment. That's when there should be an investigation.
But saying somebody should resign, when
Oh,
in
for
fact
heaven's
someone's
sake.
already lost their job because of the nature of the
several
comments.
people.
You say they're only on the doorstep or only talking to her for 6 minutes. Ooh, hang on, that's a little bit disingenuous. They had to investigate the investigation before they went there. They spent 6 minutes with her, then presumably when they went back to the station, they had to write it up. They had to travel there and travel back. So it was a lot more than 6 minutes of police time which, as she said in that little clip that we showed, they could have probably much more usefully be spent investigating real crime.
Richard, what would you be saying if the police did nothing and this escalated?
Well, that would wait for it to
would be a story.
you and I do not know what this potentially could have happened.
You can't
here.
prejudge it.
Well,
surely.
well, you have to.
Calling
The
for
police- the
resignation might escalate to something worse.
You're not suggesting Helen Jones's
No, no.
behaviour
But I'm
was
saying that if
escalating?
the police have an allegation is made, the police are under an obligation to investigate it.
Yeah.
This is not the police turning up with a van load of people and spending hours and hours there. It was a 6-minute conversation
But
and it would have been dealt with.
they're not under an obligation to investigate. You told us that a moment ago. It was a judgment call. Clearly, it was a wrong
They could
judgment
have logged it, couldn't they? They could have logged it so it was on the record, and then if you, as you say, at some level it had escalated, they would have that as background.
Or just check to see if the person had got a criminal record for violence. If that's all you need to do, a PNC, National Computer.
But that's
check.
not going to be sufficient, isn't it? Because what they did, I think, I think Greater Manchester Police are in a very difficult situation. If they didn't do anything, they'd be criticised. If they did do something, they'd be
Criticised by a politician.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
if
dear.
the next time Susanna and I, or any of the presenters on this programme, ask a politician or put it to a politician that they should resign...
And repeatedly ask.
And repeatedly put that question, that point to them and make that charge, are we going to be investigated? Am I going to go home and find a couple of plainclothes
Well, I'd be
detectives
very
waiting to
surprised
talk
if
to me?
anything like that happens. But I think the
Well,
reality is...
it shouldn't happen at all.
OK, thank you both very much indeed. Just to point out, Greater Manchester Police made the point. No crime was committed, and on that day, officers made 203 arrests for crimes like assault, burglary and rape, and that was their priority.